Hello guys and welcome to Europa Universalis 4. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. It's come to my attention that a lot of you don't know how to play EU4 and are wanting to get into EU4. So my guides, previous guides haven't been the best for that, for completely new players. So I thought I'd do a guide on how to play EU4, like basic controls, everything. I'm not going to go too in depth on all of the modifiers and stuff because I would be here for 10, 20 hours. This is gonna be a series though, and I'm gonna explain a little bit along the way so you guys don't overload on information. So today we're gonna be playing as Castile, which is one of the best beginner nations in Europa Universalis 4. It's a good beginner nation because, as you can see, nobody really wants to attack it, and nobody really can attack it. The Ottomans are also a good beginner nation, but I like Castile better because it's what I learned to play with. So once once you've pressed single player, just so you know how to move the map, you drag at the edge of the screen or you press the middle mouse button, the scroll wheel, you drag like that. Next, let's press play. Don't concern yourself with the other stuff, although I will explain this a little bit. EU4 is great because you can change the start date. So if you wanted to play as in the French Revolution, you could go to the Revolutionary France start date and play as the French. Or if you wanted to play as Spain in the what's it called? Play as Spain just as they started colonizing, then you could play in the 1579 start date, as you can see. You can also change the start date manual by fiddling with these. As you can see, if I go by centuries, it's gonna change the start date a lot, even by 10 years. Oritsa's gotten a lot bigger, Khorasan taken over all of that. And I'm just gonna go back to the first start date, 1444. Note that most nations, most people actually play in 1444, and the game is designed to start from 1444. And so, the farther you go out, the more glitchy the game becomes because the devs don't really add new stuff for the later start dates. So, if you want the true EU4 experience, you want to play in 1444. And if you notice that all of these different start dates in 1444, they don't really matter. They're all the same map. All it does is shifts your viewpoint and changes the interesting nations. So this is the Asia, this is America, this is Africa, and this is Europe. So just so you know. So let's play. I'm gonna press the play button here, and let me explain to you the difference between normal mode and Iron Man mode. Iron Man mode means you cannot reload when things go badly for their nation, as it says in the text box. I'm gonna play Iron Man mode here so you know I'm not cheating. So I'm going to put in my file name. It's going to be my guides folder. Ignore all of the guides. Castile guide number 2. And let's go. So I'm going to drag my stuff over to Castile. And welcome to the world of EU4. Now you may be wondering why you don't see other parts of the map that you just saw. And that's because you only have access to a limited amount of the map until later in the game. So as you start exploring, you'll see the rest of the map. Castile is actually a good nation for colonizing. So the nation of Castile is actually present-day Spain. I accidentally pressed a button there. It's actually present-day Spain. And so you have most of present-day Spain, and the Spanish the Spain, present day Spain actually is divided between four nations, two minor ones and two major ones. So you have Granada, Navarra, Aragon, and Castile. So first, let's look at all of these different map modes. So down here in this corner, I'm going to be taking this corner by corner. So first I'm going to do this, first I'm going to do this, and then last I'm going to do that. So the first corner we have over here is the map modes tab. So here I have the culture map mode. For you it may be different because you can set these map modes. So if you press W or political, you'll see the map of all of the borders of the nations. And this is the map you're going to spend most of your time on. And the map you're going to spend the second most on is the trade map. The trade map is very complicated and it's going to have its own video, but it basically shows you what the trade powers in your area are, what the trade stuff. And as you can see, this is a lot of information, and this will have its own video. Next, the R is the diplomatic map. This is also a very useful map. You can see all of the diplomatic relations you have with other countries. Obviously, right now you don't have any because you just started the game, but yes. Next, you have the religious map, which shows you what religion the nations are. So here in Europe, we have Catholic, because obviously the Protestant Reformation hasn't happened yet. And then you have some Muslim down here because all of the Islamic people haven't been kicked out of Spain yet. These other map modes are also important, but these will be covered in later. And note that you can change what map modes you can access based on if you right click the map mode and press add another map mode. I'm going to add the, it's a good one. I'm going to add this terrain map mode. So now if I press Q, and as you can see, you can have more than one map in a button. So if I press, so right now it's the regions map mode, but if I press Q again, it goes to the simple terrain map mode. And if I press Q again, it goes to the terrain map mode. And if I press Q again, it goes to the culture map mode. So I'm going to go back to the political map mode for now. And also note that this mini map you can control, just click and it'll send you to that part of the nation map. If you want to go to North Russia, you just go there in one click. So I'm going to go back to Spain here. And you can also zoom in and out, obviously using the scroll wheel. Alright, next, let's look at this corner. This corner over here. This top corner. So this black box over here is the outsider. Or what is it called? Actually, what's the actual name? Yeah, outliner, not outsider. Sorry, I'm reading the outsiders right now, and that's probably why I called it that. So this is an overview of everything in your nation that's simplified more. So you can see your armies, which we have two, that are both 12,000 troops, which is useful for keeping track when you're like a global empire and you have armies in every corner of the world. You can't see all of them. Here we can see both of our armies, 12,000 troops and 12,000 troops. By the way, if your map looks a little different from mine, that's okay. I have a mod on that changes some graphical stuff. So as you can see, we have our armies here, and we have our navies here. You can also check on your navies and armies in the outliner. I have a few disabled alerts, which are these things. I will get into those later. And then you have the estates. The estates are another thing I will explain later in the video. And then you have your merchants, which have to do with trade, and your diplomats, which have to do with your diplomatic relations, obviously. You can add stuff to the outliner by going here and maybe pressing some stuff. I recommend you keep it as is, just to not clutter your outliner. Next, we're going to go into the middle here and discuss how to select an army. So the way you select an army is you can click on it, obviously, and then you can press escape to deselect it. You can also click on other stuff to deselect it. So if I click on this, I won't deselect it, but if I click on this, I will deselect it. Another way you can select more than one army is you can click one and then shift click another one, which will also click both. You can also do the same thing from the outliner. So I can click both. And you can also drag and select all your armies as well. For your navies, you do the same thing. You can do the same controls. But note, if you try to select armies and navies at the same time, you can't. Another thing is if you try to select armies and a navy in a box, it's going to take priority to the army. So as you can see, I'm trying to select the navy, trying to select the navy, and this will work. So if I go to like here, it will work. But if I go to here, it will select the army. So the way you circumvent this is you press Control and then you drag, and it will select the navy, so it will take priority over the navies. I'll explain more about the army in the next video. Next, let's move a little bit to this corner, the most complicated corner of information. So, let's start here. These are your missionaries, your diplomats, your colonists, and merchants. Usually, you don't look at the screen very much because, yeah, you don't look at them very much because this information can easily be accessed in other places, and you generally know how many you have and how many are free, and there's alerts telling you that you can do stuff with them. For example, right now I can't do anything with my missionaries because my entire country is one religion. And if you haven't pieced it together, missionaries convert provinces to other religions. So if I wanted to convert this province Malacca to Christian or Catholic, I would send a missionary there, and over time I will convert it to Catholic. Next, we have our diplomats, which you use to send diplomatic relations. So how to select another country to send them diplomatic relations? If you just click on a province, a random province, you're just going to select the province. So here's my capital. Here's another province, more provinces, all of these provinces. These are cool provinces. So how you select another country is you right click. Boom, I've right clicked on a country and now I've selected Aragon. If you ever want to go to your own country's diplomacy view, you can right click on your own country or you can click on another country and press Z. So, yes. To use a diplomat, all you have to do is click on a country and do an action. So, as you can see, France would accept an alliance from us. So, I'm going to send an alliance offer to them. So, how you do this is go to Alliance Actions, Offer Alliance, and Confirm. And now France has accepted our offer to enter into a military alliance. Perfect. Next, as you can see here, we have 2 out of 3 free diplomats. And in 9 days, for 9 days, we cannot use this one diplomat. Next, let's explain all of these over here. So this is the amount of money you have, and if you hover over it, you can see your last monthly balance. So how much money you made last month. This is the amount of manpower you have, and manpower is used to build troops and reinforce troops. It's a very important modifier. This number shows you how many sailors you have and the maximum, obviously, just like manpower. It's the same thing as manpower, except it reinforces boats and it used to build naval vessels. And you may be wondering, wait, why do we have 0 stability? Isn't that bad? Stability in this game is on a scale from -3 to 3. So 0 is perfectly neutral stability. If you have -3 stability, you need to increase your stability immediately. And if you have 3 stability, you're fine. 3 stability is actually really good. Next, this number indicates how much corruption you have. Corruption is a mechanic that, if ignored, can be very, very costly, but it's not something you should worry about that much unless it gets out of hand. Corruption's on a scale from 0 to 100, and note that corruption, it rounds to the nearest whole number. So, well, like the next whole number. So if it's 0.01 corruption, it's gonna show up as 1 here. And if it's 1.01, it's gonna show up as 2, and vice versa. So don't be worried if you have just suddenly 1 corruption when it's reality, just a 0.01 corruption. Next, prestige. Prestige is also on a scale from 0 to 100, and it's basically, no, it's actually from minus 100 to 100. But prestige is how prestigious your nation is. So, like, how much glory your nation has, kind of, but not exactly. You want to keep this high, but it's not the most important modifier in the book. Next, you have legitimacy. Legitimacy is how legitimate monarchs are perceived to be by their subjects. So heirs with a weak claim will have low legitimacy. You want to keep legitimacy high because it improves a lot of stuff, as you can see all that green. But it's not the worst thing in the world if you have low legitimacy every once in a while. Next, uh, power projection. Power projection is how much glory you have, like glory, how much glory, gold, glod, glory. So basically, this is how much glory you've gotten over your enemies, and this is a very powerful modifier that a lot of people actually overlook sometimes. But yep, it's there, and I will tell you how to get more power projection in later videos. And next, for like the 3 main things that EU4 is known for: the mana system. So the administrative power, diplomatic power, and military power are all power points. Power points basically are a way to control your nation, and they are dependent on how good your ruler is. So as you can see here, our ruler is a 1-1-2, and the best ruler you can possibly get is a 6-6-6. So every ruler has a stat in a PowerPoint, and it can range from 0 to 6. So the worst possible ruler is a 0-0-0, which is a really bad ruler. You won't get any extra power points. So think of a 0-0-0 as like an incompetent ruler, like someone who literally does not know how to rule. Think of a 6-6-6 like living god on earth, like the most perfect human being you can ever imagine. So obviously you want to keep the 6-6-6 heirs and not the 0-0-0 heirs. You can see how much monthly administrative power you get every month by hovering over. And you can do the same for military power, diplomatic power, obviously. Let me just change something on DLC mechanics, sorry. And I'm trying not to use that many DLC mechanics here, but if I have to, I have to, unfortunately. There's some that are just necessary. Alright, next, let me explain what these are used for. So these can develop provinces. So as you can see, this is how developed your provinces are, and you can use them to increase the production, manpower, or tax of your provinces. You have to use these to increase technologies, and you can also use them for special government functions like increasing stability, uh, what else? Increasing legitimacy, a lot of things really. And generally, the more monarch points you have, is the more advanced your nation is. So if you have good rulers, that really sets the tone for your nation, kind of. So now that I've explained what all of these are, I'm going to go into the alerts. So the alerts are basically, oh, something's happening in your nation. You should probably look at it. So the red ones are the ones like you need to look at this now or you will have bad debuffs, which is too few rivals, which is gives you bad debuffs. And the yellow ones, which we don't have right now, the ones like these are kind of serious. The green ones are you can look at these if you want. They're not that serious, but most of them are like things that you can do. I'm just gonna select that for now. So let's look at this red one. So too few rivals. So let me explain the rival system here in Europa Universalis 4. Every nation has up to 3 rivals, and rivals are basically the people that you hate. You're basically your enemies. And so as you can see, the people who view us as a rival are Burgundy, Aragon, and England. So I'm gonna be like, sure, if you hate me so much, I'm gonna rival you back. So I'm gonna rival England, Burgundy, and Aragon. Note that this may be different in your game. EU4 is a very dynamic game and it won't always be the same. So, for example, Aragon, France, and England might rival me, or Burgundy, France, and England might rival me, right? So, you have to be prepared for everything that could go wrong, or countries to ally each other that they didn't do in your last game, for example. This EU4 is a dynamic game, and that's what makes it so fun. It's not the same regurgitated game every time. Next, let's look at this alert. Free advisor slot. So this will take you to the court screen, which you can see your heir, which is the worst possible heir we have, 000, and the king, 112, which is pretty bad. You can also see how much, this is also an expanded view of the PowerPoints. So you can see how many PowerPoints you have, how many administrative power points you get per month, how many military, and the same thing for all of them. So there's these things called advisors that give you extra military points, extra power points in the category they're in, and they also give you a boost to a random stat, to a stat. So as you can see here, they also cost money. You can see here, if I pay 1 ducat monthly, I will get ducat, and by the way, the currency is ducat. Um, I will get 1 extra military point per month and minus 10% land maintenance modifier. So my armies will be 10% cheaper. So I'm going to take the Grand Captain. I'm going to take Ignacio Osorio because he's the only level 1 advisor. And I'm going to take Enrique Lopez de Haro, which is 10% production efficiency. So that's another alert gone. And these 2 alerts, you can't do anything about them for now. Just note all of this. Next tab is the government tab, which um, you can see what cultures you have, and I'll explain cultures in a next video, or in one of the next videos, and some of the stuff current in your nation. So you can see the government reforms, which happens to be the same button here, and you can see the country modifiers. So these are all of the modifiers that your country is affected by. As you can see, there's a crap ton. Next, you have the diplomacy screen. And so whatever nation you were having diplomacy with earlier will show this screen. So as you can see, if I click Lithuania, it will just go to the diplomacy screen and say Lithuania. If you click yourself, it will show your diplomacy screen, which is where you select your rivals. The economy screen is probably the most important one, I would say, and it's where you can see how much money you're going to make and your detailed view of your economy. So as you can see, it says how much you get from tax, how much you get from production, how much you get from trade, and how much you get from gold. How much income you get, and how many expenses. You can also take loans, raise war taxes, reduce inflation, declare bankruptcy, and do all of this stuff. This will have its own video for sure, and it'll probably be along with the trade video. The trade screen is going to have its own video, and it's basically an expanded view of the trade screen, but people don't use it much because all the information you really need is in this screen, which is the trade map mode. Next is the technology screen, and this is where you increase technologies. So if you have 600 or 598 military points, military power, you can take the next technology, which will give you these bonuses. And it's very important to keep up to date on technology. Otherwise, you will fall far behind and you will not be able to win anything. You'll probably get partitioned by your neighbors and and it will not go well. Next is your ideas, which I will explain. You need technology to unlock most of these, but just know that every nation has a set of unique ideas, and they also have a set of common ideas that everyone can take. So if I want to have better economy, I'll take economic ideas. If I have want to have better, more military, I'll take quantity ideas, and that's another thing. Next, you have missions, which not every nation has unique missions, and I'll explain this later, but this is basically what the guide for your nation. So your nation can get some cool modifiers, some claims, and all that jazz within this mission tree. This is one of the most interesting parts of EU4, and I suggest trying to follow this as much as possible. Next, you have the Decisions tab, where you can form the Spanish, where you can take decisions which will affect your nation in good or bad ways, depending on what decision you take. And each decision has requirements, and once you fulfill those requirements, you can press the button and you get the modifiers. Next is stability and expansion. Stability and expansion basically means how stable your nation is. You can increase stability here, reduce war exhaustion, and there's a lot of other modifiers here that I will tell you about in a later video. Note how there's a lot of stuff I will tell you about in a later video, and that's okay. Next, you have the religion tab. The religion tab is basically what religion you are, how many provinces are your religion, how much percent your religion is, how much percent of religious unity you have, and religious unity is how united your country is in terms of religion. Next, you have the military tab, which is an overview of your military. You can see how many troops you can reasonably support without paying extra, um, your military statistics, your naval force limit, basically how many naval units are you capable of supporting, and your naval statistics as well. You can also recruit generals, and these will also have its own video. Next, we'll have the estates, which are basically the three factions in your country, which will all like what's it called? Which all control some degree of land, and have some degree of loyalty and influence in your nation. They give you buffs if loyal, and they give debuffs if disloyal. So that's basically the very, very basics of the EU4 menus. And that's what this video was all about. So next video, which will be sometime in the next few days probably, we'll go and we're gonna unpause for the first time and start talking about the economy more, maybe start talking about some diplomatic actions, really get into the thick of things. For now, your homework is to just kind of explore around EU4. Try messing around with random buttons. Try to see what happens. Maybe even play the in-game tutorial. And I do warn you though, it isn't very good. Try playing around with buttons and stuff and see where you end up. If you comment down below where you ended up, and comment down below any suggestions or anything I may have missed. Thank you for watching today's video here at Basilius Gameplay EU4 blah 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 blah, etc. etc. Thank you for watching and goodbye.